How's everyone doing today? Good. Round of applause for everyone. Come on, round of applause. Good, good. So, show of hands. Who's ready to learn how to reduce your risk of heart disease by 90%? Yeah. How about improving your energy about 20 to 30%? Right. How about reversing diabetes or right? So our speaker tonight is no other than Dr. Yachter, of course. Of course, Dr. Yachter is a 1993 alumnus of Life University. He graduated from Life University in 1993 with his Doctor of Chiropractic degree, and he's been a licensed practicing physician for the past 22 years. He's been Chiropractor of the Year in 2006, 2007, received multiple humanitarian awards. He's also been, he's also received the B.J. Palmer Life Award for Outstanding Citizenship and Leadership. He's a formerly trained high-endurance athlete, and he's brought his passion for healthy healing all over the world, doing mission trips to places like Panama and Jamaica. Of course, Dr. Yachter is also a family man, right? So he has 3 sons, and he's married to Yvette Yachter. So, help me out and introduce Dr. David Yachter. Come on, stand up.
Give yourselves a round of applause. That was still pretty good. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm glad you guys are here. And if you're a guest, I'm Dr. Yachter, and I'll be your game show host for tonight. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna learn a lot. How many of you guys have? This is your first workshop. Raise your hand if this is your first workshop. Awesome. Everybody give them a big hand. Right. How many of you guys have been to a couple of workshops? 2, 3, 4 workshops? Keep your hands up. 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Look at Pat, just like
at least
50, 60, 100. So we have an old saying here, it's when you stop learning, you stop growing, and when you stop growing, you start dying. So that means every month we've got a great workshop, you keep learning, you keep growing, you always get something. Tonight we have Heart Smart Nutrition, but don't let the title fool you. If you see this, come again in February, you're always going to learn something new. And repetition is the mother of all skill. And what I know after doing this for over 20 years, is that we are used to doing things a certain way. We are very much used to our present healthcare system, doctors, listening to doctors, just taking their recommendation at face value, and really not having the reference and research to back it up. So what I've learned is that we really got to hear this stuff a lot, over and over and over again, to get stronger in it and more comfortable in making sometimes difficult decisions that maybe sometimes go against what our doctors recommend. And that may not be necessarily being a bad patient, so to speak, but it may mean the difference between your quality of health or developing disease. And I'm going to lay out the facts for you tonight. We're going to bust a couple of myths. And I went through this, and I'm like, man, everybody needs to be here. A lot more people need to be here. Because what we're going to talk about tonight is going to blow your mind. You're going to be like, my gosh, this is not right. How come nobody ever told me about this before? Why did my doctor tell me about this before? When it's there in their own medical journals. So this is the part that I'm excited about. I apologize for my enthusiasm. But there's freedom in truth. And that's my wish and my prayer for you guys tonight. So keep coming back to the workshops. Every time you come back to a workshop, you'll get something new and exciting and something you can learn from. Also, if you're a patient here, if you're under care, you keep track of your workshops. And then for those of you guys who come for maintenance or wellness care, you just come for a regular checkup, you get a discount because of that. So keep track of that. Everybody should have a workshop card with the month of the year and the title that goes with that month. We have those up front if you haven't got one yet. Next month is cancer prevention, and everybody should know that cancer prevention is for October, and there should be cancer prevention programs everywhere. Places of work, worship. We go out and very often donate our time and do these talks, which are absolutely life-changing. So I invite you guys to come here, and that'll be Thursday, October 8th at 6 o'clock. So with the Core 4, if you don't know what that is our system of healthcare. That's our delivery system. So there are core essential elements that your body needs for health and healing. And yes, it's important to eat good and exercise, but if your nerve system is short-circuiting or malfunctioning, that's basically like the power in your panel at your home. So you have to have all of these things working at optimum potential. This little guy here, give a hoot, or the owl, the wise owl, is for us to be reminded that it's important to learn and continue to grow. Education, right? And so that's what we're going to start off with. We're going to start off with some education and really give you some awareness of where things are at. And I'll say this also. And we're going to start off talking about cholesterol medications and like the biggest hoax that's ever been perpetuated on mankind. But let me tell you this. Even if you're not on cholesterol medications, it's only a matter of time. So you get to that point in your life where the recommendation is going to be coming down the pike. So, we're either, working on getting off of it, or we're preventing getting on it. And so I want you to really get these seeds planted really strongly in your mind right now. This was a recent interview with a cardiologist, and it's amazing, what he said, the words that actually came out of his mouth as far as who heart disease affects.
Heart disease. It's projected that 1 out of every 4 people in the United States will die from it. And more younger people are being diagnosed every day. We find out more in today's Health Matters. Age is only a number. That's how the old saying goes. And when it comes to heart disease, that's a fact.
This past month saw individual 27 with cardiovascular pain and blockage. And we see it in 90-year-olds.
As a cardiologist, Dr. Edward Palang warns heart disease can strike anyone at any stage of life, no matter how active they are.
Just because I'm 40 and I'm playing tennis and I'm active doesn't mean I can't have a cardiovascular problem.
While heart disease is often thought of as an older person's problem, Dr. Palang says young people need to be especially on guard.
There's a lot of denial. Not gonna.
He's saying it's not going to happen to me. That's famous last words. That's something that we usually say. When things are fine, you just leave it alone, you don't do anything, and we take it for granted. So not going to happen to me. The problem is it's heart disease is caused by things that we don't think. It's not caused from cholesterol. It's not caused from eating bad fats. It's caused from inflammation. And we're going to learn about the cause of the cause tonight. So we're gonna debunk and break down some of these myths right now. The first thing is, again, published in a prestigious medical journal. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Journal of the American Medical Association. Yeah, it's the #1 medical journal in the United States. Published a trial that compared older adults with high cholesterol levels above 240 to those with normal levels below 200. Over the course of 4 years, researchers at Yale University measured total cholesterol and high-density lipoprotein, the HDL, good cholesterol, so to speak. They measured in almost 1,000 participants. Then they tracked hospitalizations for heart attacks, angina, and rates of death from heart disease and from any other cause. What they found was there was no difference found between the two groups. People with low cholesterol had just as many heart attacks and died as those with high cholesterol. And the reviews of multiple large studies routinely failed to find correlation between cholesterol levels and heart disease. You'll see this over and over with what I'm going to show you right now. There is no correlation with high cholesterol levels and heart disease or heart attacks. Did we get that? Did you guys? Okay, so that's #1. That is New England Journal of Medicine. Anybody ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Another prestigious medical journal. 10 years ago, found that patients with low HSCRP, which is the inflammatory markers, had fewer heart attacks no matter what their LDL cholesterol level was. And they had more heart attacks if their inflammation levels were elevated regardless of their LDL cholesterol. So it doesn't matter how high your cholesterol level is. If your inflammatory markers are in normal range, there is no risk for heart disease. That's what the medical literature has been showing. The Framingham Heart Study was one of the largest heart trial studies ever done. They started in the 50s. They continued to do follow-up studies into the early 2000s. And you're gonna get some insight into why a lot of this was kind of swept under the rug. The answers have been evident for more than a half a century already. And the recommendations that we got for the low-fat diet and low cholesterol and all these things, it's junk science. It's just been wrong for a half a century. And it's responsible for the #1 disease killer today, which is heart disease, because of these wrong nutritional recommendations that we were given. And it's all coming to light right now, but it was swept under the rug by the food industry. So the Framingham follow-up study was done in 2005 in Boston University. They looked at 789 men and 1,105 women who were part of the original group. This was back in the 50s. They were all free of dementia and stroke at the beginning of the study and were followed up for 16 to 18 years. They did cognitive tests every 4 to 6 years, evaluating memory, learning, concept formation, concentration, attention, abstract reasoning, and organizational abilities. These are all features that are compromised with Alzheimer's patients. And the participants with the total cholesterol less than 200 perform less well than the participants with the higher cholesterol. So you look at these cholesterol levels, okay? Because this would typically scare you, wouldn't it? If your cholesterol goes 200, 239, over 240, you're nervous. And if you're not taking that medication, you're sweating bullets. But what they found was that the people who had those levels or higher scored the highest on the cognitive tests. So, so much better than the people with the lower levels. So the lower the cholesterol levels, what they have found is that the higher the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And there's a really good reason for that also, which I'll go into and share with you the science. But nonetheless, that was the conclusion of the study. New research reveals that statins lessen brain function and increase the risk for heart disease, and here's why. Cholesterol is a what? Critical brain nutrient for the function of neurons. Do we have neurons in our brain? Yeah. Do we need those neurons in our brain? Yes. Do you like knowing who your spouse is right now? Do you like knowing their name? Do you like knowing who your family members and your friends are and not wanting to forget them? Or being, lost, 5 minutes after you drive and you sit in the parking lot in Home Depot and wonder how you got there. Okay? When you start losing neurons, these are the things that happen. And they happen more often to people who are on cholesterol medication. Building blocks of cell membranes, that's what cholesterol is. The neurons rely on delivery of cholesterol from the bloodstream via specific carrier protein known as what? LDL. Now when I say the word LDL, what comes to mind? Good or bad? Bad. Okay? When I say the word cholesterol, what kind of emotional feeling do you have come over you? Good or bad? Bad. But everything that you're going to learn tonight shows it's just the opposite. Cholesterol is not bad. Cholesterol is good. It's necessary for the functioning of your brain cells, your neurons, every cell in your body. Your testosterone, estrogen, everything, all of these hormones are based on the production of cholesterol. And if you don't have that, you don't function normally. So where did this come from? Who taught us this? Well, somebody who would make money off of us, called Big Pharma. Okay, so this is the reality of it, and again, this is the science of it, guys. LDL is not a cholesterol molecule at all, by the way. There's no such thing as HDL and LDL are good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. LDL is not a cholesterol. It's not cholesterol at all. Did you know that? It's a lipoprotein. Now, this is the component that causes the greater risk for heart disease, because that LDL molecule, if it oxidizes, that's what increases your risk of atherosclerosis. But the question is, how does it become oxidized? And that's what you got to learn tonight. Because if you can control that, then you have nothing to worry about. Your cholesterol can go 300, 400, and you should not be worried about anything at all. Are we good with that? Okay. That was easy. There's absolutely nothing bad about LDL. The fundamental role of LDL in the brain is to capture life-giving cholesterol and transport it to the neuron where it performs critically important functions. The other question that people always ask me is that, well, I I can't imagine my cholesterol being 300 or 400. Where patients tell me like that runs in their family, and some people are like, well, my cholesterol is at 300, but my doctor says I'm okay. Well, you are okay. You know, if somebody's cholesterol is that high, don't you think the body is making that cholesterol for a reason at that level? There's got to be a good reason for it. If that cholesterol is necessary for healing and repair and regeneration, maybe that person needs that because that's what their body is doing right now. I don't know, but you know what? There's an intelligence inside of your body that does know that. And again, we have to look at the things that are really the indicating factors that would cause the risk for heart disease. And cholesterol is not it. It's the LDL and it's the oxidation of that LDL, and we're going to show you what causes that. So cholesterol acts as a precursor to important brain-supporting elements like what? Vitamin D, as well as steroid-related hormones, sex hormones such as testosterone and estrogen, which leads me to my next slide. So this was in Time magazine just a couple of years ago, men going through menopause. So you see the big billboards and the commercials, got low T, and you see the guy and you see his companion, and things are going pretty good now that they're on the drugs. But you see, hormones start going down as we get older, but there are a lot of things that make them go down. And one is a sedentary lifestyle, like if you're not exercising. Number two is if you start taking all types of prescription drugs which interfere with the normal hormonal production, namely what? Cholesterol, statin drugs. So again, the research is out. All the studies have achieved proof of concept on this. You need cholesterol to make testosterone and estrogen, ladies. It's very, very important. All right, so what about cholesterol and coronary artery disease? Coronary artery disease has more to do with what? Oxidized cholesterol. Okay, oxidized cholesterol is almost like when you cut open an apple and you see it turn brown. Like that's the oxidation. It's almost like a rusting, and that's what happens to that, and that's what causes the problem. LDL becomes oxidized or damaged LDL and can no longer deliver the cholesterol to the brain. That's a problem. Now here's the cause of it. Physical modification of what? Glucose. So when we start getting sugar into the picture, then things start going haywire. How about that? So are you saying that cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease? No. What's sugar? Sugar is the cause of the cause. Yeah. Because what sugar does is it physically changes those molecules. Now they attach themselves to LDL and they change the molecular shape and structure, rendering it useless while increasing free radical production. By the way, free radical production, free radicals running around your body is a good cause for cancer also. So that's why this study I've had in my PowerPoints for many years now. National Cancer Institute did 12,500 men and women. They found the men with the lowest cholesterol levels were the most likely to get what? Cancer. Known to depress the immune system because of this. Published in the Lancet. How many of you guys have ever heard of Lancet? Most prestigious medical journal in England. Researchers from the Netherlands studied 724 elderly individuals whose average age was 89 years, followed them for 10 years. Each 39-point increase in total cholesterol corresponded to a 15% decrease in early death. The higher the cholesterol went, the longer they lived. In the study, there was absolutely no difference in the risk of dying from coronary artery disease between the high versus the low cholesterol groups. See, to me, this is like, I know that there are many of you in the room right now, and you may be on the medication, or you've probably heard this before, but there's this fear that grips us, like, I don't want to go against my doctor's recommendations. I don't want to be a bad patient. You know, obviously, if they gave this to me, they got to know what they're talking about. Well, my question is, are they reading the medical journals that they're supposed to be reading? And if they're too busy to do that and they're not, you're going to keep getting what is touted to them when they go to continuing education, licensed seminars, licensed renewal seminars, and when the drug representatives visit them, because guess what? Every time you get a brand name prescription drug like Lipitor or Crestor, what's coming behind that for that prescribing physician? A what? A kickback, yes. Okay, so you need to do your homework. Your doctors work for you. You don't work for your doctors. Okay, your doctor, the word doctor means teacher. The doctor should be there to give you recommendations and education. You have to fend for yourself. I'm giving you the same information that comes out of their medical journals, guys, and you should be able to take that and confidently make the right decision for yourself. If someone said to me, you know, I have this, people come up to me and they're like, you know what, I want to stop taking my cholesterol drugs. Is there any risk or any contraindication? And my answer is, if it was me, I wouldn't think twice. I can't tell you what to do. I won't tell you to stop taking your meds. But I'll tell you, if it was me, I wouldn't think twice. And again, it's all based on the numbers, the stats, the research, and common sense, at least at this point. So other common causes of death dramatically associated with lower cholesterol. Authors reported mortality from cancer and infection was significantly lower among the participants in the highest total cholesterol category than other categories. In fact, when you compare the lowest and highest cholesterol groups, the risk of dying during the study was reduced by a breathtaking 48% in those who had the highest cholesterol. High cholesterol extends what? Yeah. So, again, I mean, I can't tell you the last time, I think when I applied for life insurance, my cholesterol was, it was like 240. And somebody said something to me, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, my cholesterol is going to be whatever it's supposed to be, and it's going to be wherever it's supposed to be. And I really don't care what my cholesterol levels are. I care about how much inflammation I have going on in my body and how much glucose and sugar I'm taking in, because I know that's the culprit that's going to drive cholesterol, that's going to drive the oxidation and the inflammation, which is not only the cause of atherosclerosis, but it'll cause much worse things, like spreading cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and every other degenerative disease known to mankind. So for that reason, I am not concerned with my cholesterol levels, nor will I ever be, because that's not the cause, is it? No, we have to look at the cause, and those are the things that you can correct. Now, if you're confident in knowing that you can make lifestyle choices to do that, then you should not have the fear being attached to those continued prescriptions. So, but again, you can't do one and not the other. So in other words, if you don't change your lifestyle, if you're not willing to make those lifestyle changes, which can reverse 80 to 90% of these degenerative diseases, then yeah, you need to stay on prescription drugs, or that's in general, whether it's you or anybody else. You see what I'm saying? So we have to reason that out. But the possibilities are there for anybody. In February 2012, the FDA released a statement indicating that statin drugs could cause cognitive side effects such as memory lapses and confusion. A recent study performed by the American Medical Association, published in the Archives of Internal Medicine in January 2012, demonstrated an astounding 48% increased risk of diabetes among women taking statin medications. How about that? So, in addition to the fact that, you know, the statin drugs or the cholesterol drugs destroying neurons, increasing your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease, what happens when you become diabetic? You also double your risk of what? Alzheimer's disease. So adding insult to injury. It's interesting, once we go on one of these medications, like, you know, you go on blood pressure medication, and you know if you're on that long enough, the side effects of the medication, you're increasing insulin levels. So eventually you're going to go on what medication to control that? Diabetes. And then the side effect, the number one side effect from prescription diabetes medication is congestive heart failure. And so it's this vicious cycle that we're seeing with all these different medications. And so we come up with this word called iatrogenic disease, which means doctor-induced disease. That's what it means. So it's a truth. It's something that we all have to be aware of, because is there a purpose for doctors and medications and prescriptions in hospitals? Of course there is. But just like any tool, you have to know how to use it and when to use it and why to use it. Otherwise, we're just like sheep to the slaughter, as I always say. And that's the reason why we're here tonight. So, where is the new ideal cholesterol recommended level? If you want to use the American Heart Association, if that makes you feel better, the ideal LDL cholesterol is 126. That was the LDL, okay? I remember being on the phone with my uncle saying, yeah, they got me on the cholesterol meds, they got my cholesterol perfect. My LDL is right about 60, 65. I'm thinking to myself, you're on your way to chemotherapy, buddy. I wanted to say that, if he only knew. But, they're so locked into the whole medical model, and it's hard to break through that. But anyway, the new study, the LDL level showed that the 107 level was associated with a 33% increased risk of cancer. And they showed the lower that LDL goes, down to 87, it was associated with a 50% increase in risk of cancer. And as your LDL goes lower and lower, your risk of cancer keeps getting worse. So how many of you guys have had a blood test to see where your cholesterol levels are? Go home tonight, take it out, and see where that LDL is, and see where your risk of cancer is based on that recommended LDL level versus the new levels. Come on in. Come on in. What's your name? What? Green. Everybody give Miss Green a hand. Got a chair right there. All right. I'll just leave the door open. All right, so beta blockers. Let's talk about beta blockers. Journal of the American College of Cardiology and Archives of Internal Medicine. You found that taking calcium channel blockers causes 26% increase in risk of having a heart attack or heart failure on these drugs. So, Cardizem, Procardia, Thiazac, and Norvasc. These are the ones in particular. Calcium channel blockers shrink the brain. Along with gradual shrinking away from the skull, there's gradual loss of intellect and decision-making reflexes, memory, personality, emotional control, and much, much more. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah, we have a seat right there. We got some seats back there. Okay, so this is my favorite part. All right, so you ready to shift gears here? Got enough education? What's that? Triglycerides? Yeah, triglycerides comes from the same thing, which is the physical modification from glucose, from sugar. That's what drives the triglycerides. That's where the fat comes from in your blood, from sugar. That's a great question. All right, so let's talk about exercise, guys. Fat backs. Body weight is a significant factor in blood pressure levels. If you lose 10 pounds, you double your chances of normalizing your blood pressure. How many of you guys are in here who did the NutriMust program, were able to reduce or get off of your blood pressure medication? Keep your hands up. Hold them high. Good bunch of you? Good. Everybody give them a round of applause. They say a 22-pound weight loss reduces a heart attack risk by what? By 75%. That's significant. So losing weight is important, but also losing the right kind of weight. You want to lose fat, not muscle, not water. And you also want to make sure that while you're losing the weight, that you're not slowing your metabolism down in the process. So if you only do a diet, that's what it does. It leaves your metabolism in a worse place. But specifically with the strategies that we have, we know exactly how to target that metabolism and speed it up. So, what I recommend as far as exercise goes, is that you don't have to run a marathon, you don't have to be an endurance athlete. Been there, done that. What I do nowadays is I actually listen to my body. Every morning when I wake up, I strap on a heart rate monitor, and there's an app on my iPhone which tells me if my body is ready for intense exercise or it needs recovery. And it does that using heart rate variability. How many of you guys have heard of heart rate variability? Yeah. So it reads my heart rate, but it also tells the heart rate variability. And based on that, it tells me whether I need to rest and recover or work out hard. And a couple times it was hard for me to listen to it, and I still worked out, and I felt more exhausted after my workout instead of being energized. And this week, here's how it went for me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, perfectly straight line down the middle, great, ready to exercise, ready to rock and roll. I woke up this morning, swung all the way off to the side, deeply parasympathetic, which means my body was in deep recovery. It means you need to rest, relax, do a brisk walk or deep breathing or something like that. And that's exactly what I did this morning. And I used to run marathons, and I used to, work out 6 days a week with weights. And you know what I've come to learn? You got to listen to your body. You really do. You need to. Your body's smarter than you are. And sometimes, we're hard-headed. I know I am, and I like to do it just out of sheer discipline, just pushing myself through it. But I'm getting to that point in my life where I realize that sometimes less is more. So what I would easily recommend to each and every one of you guys is put a brisk walk in your schedule at least a couple days a week. If you can't briskly walk at least 2 to 3 days a week, and all you need is like 20 or 30 minutes. And if for nothing else, just for the peace and the spiritual part of it in the morning. So like this morning, I went outside and I took my headphones with me, and then I said, you know what? I don't want to listen to anything. I want to hear the birds. You know, I want to hear nature. I want this to be a peaceful thing. And that fills me up just as much as the oxygen that I'm taking in. So I'd strongly recommend that for you. But in addition to that, obviously, it's good for your metabolism, and it'll help you not just get the weight off, but keep the weight off. You know, again, we're only talking about 2 or 3 days a week. Now, if you can't briskly walk, then you can get on a bike. You can get on a stationary bike, or you can get on any kind of bike that goes around the neighborhood. And again, you don't have to race around. You can sit in a chair and take heavy hands and just go up and down and just get your heart rate up. And you can do that in a bursting type fashion, where you do 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And that interval training, which we call burst training, you should not do on the same days as your brisk walking. So you would do that maybe 2 days a week, do your brisk walk on the opposite days, just as an example. But I would recommend working out more days during the week than you don't, if that's a good rule of thumb. And how many days in the week are there? So how many days do you want to work out at least? Yeah, and we're not talking about something that's brutal or agonizing. We're talking about something that should leave your body feeling cleansed, energized, and really helping you to reduce your stress, which in turn is going to help you control your hormones and also keep your weight off. Does that make sense? Okay, so the most important thing is what? Consistency. Your body loves rhythm. Your body loves rhythm. Consistency is the key. Research has repeatedly shown exercising more than once annually is the most effective strategy. More than once a year. Let's see you're still awake. Okay. So I'm not going to have you all get up and work out right now. But what I do is I want to bring my my dynamic team up here to help me recognize a couple of people who have put their best feet forward and have gotten some really good results. You know, we like to recognize everyone. A few shout outs here from time to time. The first, okay, you got that. Dr. D's got it. Is Laurel here? Laurel Hosang? There you are. Oh, okay. So Laurel, can you stand up for a minute? Laurel, we have our University Core 4 degree. She's been to 6 or more workshops. I don't know how many workshops, but definitely more than 6. So continuing education, excellence. Give her a big round of applause. Thank you. And we have some awards for perfect adjustment attendance. And we're going to come around as we call your name. We're going to come around and crown you with our Elevation Health Award of Excellence Medal. When I call your name, please stand up, and if we can just recognize them with a round of applause. Vivian Beck, Joe Latore, Cynthia Parsons, Tony Amos, Diane Flood. Yeah, give them a round of applause there. And Ricardo Gregory. Where's Ricardo? There you are. Ricardo, can you come on up for a second? Where's Oh, okay. We don't. Okay. So I wanted to bring Ricardo up. His dad was supposed to be here. He couldn't make it. And this is Ricardo. And good guy to know. You ever get in a dark alley and I definitely want to have a man like him around. So Ricardo's dad is Melmoth, and he was a patient here, and I haven't seen him in a while, but you know, just one of those guys I'll never forget. Just this big old smile and the happiest go-lucky. He's actually a slightly smaller 65-year-old version of his son, but still pretty buff. And Ricardo, I mean, he's just like a chip off the old block. His dad just always smiling and just happy to be alive, happy-go-lucky, and came in and he was getting adjusted, and he didn't do a whole lot. He just got adjusted. Before you know it, he's getting off of his insulin and he's losing weight, and his back pain went away and all this stuff. He was just, we had a good time together. And I hadn't seen him in a while, but I got a call from Ricardo. He's a Marine, and he's calling me up. He's telling me he has some trouble with his back, and we got him in. And this in one case in particular, my heart kind of went out for, because you could tell he lifts weights, and I've been an avid weightlifter for many years, and he's got a problem with his back, almost kind of like I do. And now there's this little thing there that you have to kind of protect like a dove, and just be really careful with it. One of those hobbies or things that you love to do that you don't want to give up. You just got to do it smarter, and that's all. And I've spent a lot of time with Ricardo, and let me tell you, man, he's a great patient. He followed everything that we showed him to do. Got on the spinal correction unit, took his spine, took that bent nail, straightened it out. And, honestly, I got to say, he did a little bit better than I thought. So, just maybe you want to tell him when you first came in, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad were things?
It was bad. I didn't even look like this when I came in. And so I went from wearing extra large shirts to extra mediums. So, but it worked. They fixed me, so yeah, the truth. Yeah.
So I just wanted to recognize Melmoth, his dad, and particularly Ricardo for putting his best foot forward. The guy never missed an adjustment, and he's just really been he's been an encouragement to my staff, as many of you have, because when we see you guys get great results, I mean, that's the bullseye for us. That's really what we're here for. We talk about it, we get excited about it. We see the results, and that's, we celebrate with stuff like that. So just wanted to show my love and appreciation for him. Yeah. All right. So what I'd like to do is have everybody come and stand up. Just turn and face the person to your right, and to the other right. Yeah. Hands on the shoulders and squeeze. Get all that stress out. Yeah. Then you want to do a karate chop. Light karate chop. Don't hurt your neighbor. Love your neighbors. Good. All right, so let's turn around. Good. Get that stress out. All right, good. Now we'll do a little karate chop there too. Come on. Karate chiropractic. Excellent. All right, give yourselves a round of applause.
This is ridiculous.
All right, so last time, if you guys remember, when I threw this out, I almost took someone's head off. Then I almost took a ceiling tile out. So I'm going to try to be a little more careful this time. Good. All right, so use it in good health. All right, the show goes on. Let's continue with the time we have remaining. And so now I want to talk about the connection here with your nervous system very briefly. So I know we have some guests here, and I want to make sure that everybody's fully connected with all of the essentials of the Core 4. This was on the morning news a little while ago. If you haven't seen this, I wanted to share it with you.
High blood pressure can be a pain in the neck. Now some doctors are trying to find out whether a chiropractic adjustment might not only straighten your spine, but also help hypertension.
Healthcare reporter Sylvia Perez here to explain. Sylvia? Kathy and Ron, many people with high blood pressure would like to find a way to avoid taking medication. A trip to the chiropractor may seem like an unlikely alternative, but an intriguing study is showing that a special kind of neck adjustment is helping some patients lower their blood pressure without drugs. What makes your blood pressure boil? Stress? Too much salt? Lack of exercise? Bad genes? No one's really sure about the cause, but here's something new to consider that might raise the eyebrows of some conventional doctors. Could it be an issue with the top of your spine?
They took x-rays and showed me that my neck was out of alignment.
Denise Neiman went to a specific chiropractor for pain in her neck. After having a special adjustment, that pain was gone, and so was something else.
My blood pressure dropped tremendously.
Other patients were reporting the same positive but surprising side effect. Dr. George Backrus, the hypertension expert at the University of Chicago Medical Center, decided to find out if there really was some kind of connection.
We designed a double-blind study to really look and see if, in fact, this procedure was affecting blood pressure.
25 patients got the real adjustment, 25 others got a fake adjustment. The result published in the Journal of Human Hypertension found those patients who got the real thing saw their blood pressure drop dramatically, an average of 17 points. That's equivalent to giving patients 2 different blood pressure medications at once.
So it's pretty significant.
So there you have it. Who would have thought? Go to a chiropractor for your blood pressure. Wow. Well, it doesn't exactly work like that. It's not like we treat high blood pressure. Obviously, an adjustment is not a medication alternative. But if the cause of high blood pressure is a vertebral, a bone out of alignment, and it's interfering with the blood supply going to the brain, that could be the cause of high blood pressure. So a lot of things can cause high blood pressure. You know, being overweight, stress, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people don't know to look at the spine because this top bone in the neck called the atlas has the vertebral basal artery which goes through the side of the bone and brings the blood supply to the head. And so if your spine is out of alignment, you know, that's why we check posture. You see somebody like this, or their shoulders higher, like this, you know, you're not looking for that, generally speaking. But people with postural problems usually have health problems, and you could see that clearly, especially if we take an x-ray or we do a thermal scan. But if that's what it looks like inside, then that bone is not protecting the spinal cord and the artery, it's actually interfering with it. And that's exactly what they found in that study that they just went over. So when you have proper alignment, then there's no pressure on the artery, there's no pressure on the nerves, there's no pressure on the brainstem, and everything works properly. So not only can it cause high blood pressure, because it affects the brainstem, which regulates your blood pressure, your breathing, and your immune system, it also regulates circulation. So you could be dizzy, you know. I mean, I've had that happen to myself. So it's happened twice. I distinctly remember waking up in the morning, and I did not have a hangover, and I was dizzy. So I knew it wasn't from drinking. I'm like, something's got to be going on here. I need an adjustment. So I got adjusted, and literally within an hour, my balance was fine again. So it could happen to anybody. But again, if you're dizzy, it's not because of a lack of Dramamine or medication. If you have high blood pressure, it's not because of a lack of medication. There's got to be a cause, a source, and a root. Not just for that, but for any health problem. So that's why I always look at the spine, because to me, it's like the circuit breaker. If there are nerves that branch off between the bones and it goes to every cell, organ, and tissue, don't you want to make sure that those organs are getting proper nerve supply? And if they're not, would it not make sense that the organ served by that nerve, if it's not getting proper power, that it's going to develop problems? The problem with that is that you don't feel it while it's developing, you only feel it after. It's kind of like a cavity or cancer or Alzheimer's disease. You don't feel the developmental stages of when there's dysfunction and disease developing. When did they diagnose cancer? 10 years after it's been there. When they diagnose Alzheimer's? 10 years after the fact. Well, it's no different than subluxation. You know, if there are bones out of alignment in your spine, it's literally the weight of a dime on one of those nerves, shutting down half the nerve supply going to organs. Your body adapts to that. You're not going to feel that. But over time, it can cause virtually any disease known to mankind. If you look at this nerve chart, you'll find anything. You'll find circulation problems in the legs, frequent urination, impotence, bladder problems, kidney problems, digestive problems, diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, literally any symptom, any sickness known to mankind. And what do we usually do when we have those symptoms? We go to the doctor and we get what? Prescriptions. But if there's a bone out of alignment, and that's the cause, what prescription is going to fix that? None. That's why we should be better versed at knowing that, you know, you should have your spine checked every once in a while as you go through life. You know, like, you don't just, how many of you guys go to a dentist just for preventative measures? That's like, you go for cleanings to make sure that your teeth last you, your gums last you, right? You don't want to wait for cavities. Somehow we got the idea of dental hygiene. Somehow we did not get the idea of spinal hygiene. And I know why. It's because we didn't do a very good job of public education, but it doesn't change the fact that your spine needs regular maintenance all throughout your lifetime. For those of you guys who are under care, I probably already explained to you, we never get you back to 100% because it's like starting to brush your teeth when you're 50. You just can't. You got to do the best with what we've got, right? But better late than never. That's why kids are the best patients, because they don't have years or decades worth of damage, and they don't need that much work. They just get better just like that. Incidentally, my kids have been checked since they were born, and they get adjusted every once in a while. But you know what? They're probably the healthiest kids that you've ever met. They've never had a drug in their body. I can't remember the last time they were ever at the pediatrician. They've never been vaccinated, by the way, which I did by choice because I did my homework. So whatever you do, is up to you. I don't tell you what to do. I don't tell parents what to do. I say freedom of choice and informed consent. Make sure you're pretty well aware of the decisions that you make. But I will tell you this, that my kids are the healthiest kids that you've ever met. And all the kids are under care in the office because we keep the one system clear that regulates all aspects of health. And it's a fundamental, again, it's important to eat good and exercise, but what good is that if, the organs that are digesting the food or your lungs that are processing the oxygen are only working at 50 or 60%? It's like go to the wall and turn the dimmer switch up. Get the power turned on. Raise your hand if you want to be at 100% of your God-given potential. Yes. All of us, right? So that's what we're talking about, pain or no pain. And that's what chiropractic was founded on September 18th, 1895. Before they had cars, there were no car accidents back then. It was a deaf janitor who had his hearing restored. And the chiropractic adjustment was not a cure for deafness. It was the removal of an interference to his nervous system that was causing his auditory nerve to not function properly. It's as simple as that. But at any rate, if you are not a patient here and you don't have a chiropractor and you haven't had your nerve system checked in a long time, I will tell you the reasons why you should. If you're having symptoms, obviously fatigue, tiredness, insomnia, poor sleep, chronic colds, flu, sinus trouble, like I said, headaches, weakness, blood pressure, dizziness, depression. These are all pretty good telltale signs that your nerve system is probably shot, malfunctioning, something's off. That's a good reason. Other than that, even if you don't have symptoms, like I said, as far as preventative checkups, like you go for a checkup every year to your doctor, they do a general physical, right? Same exact thing. You should be having that done with your spine, generally speaking, on a regular basis. And if you haven't done that in a really long time, would you agree it's probably a good idea to have it done at least once in your life? Yeah. Okay. So I'm speaking mostly to the guests. If you're not a patient or you'd like us to do that for you, the way that we do that is we use thermography. And the hot areas tell us where the problems are. This is what a normal scan would look like, but the hot areas tell us where problems are. And we can sit down and do that with you. If you'd like to do that, see my staff at the end of the program tonight, and they will have a coupon for a discount on that first exam. And so at the end, you just ask them, and they'll get you set up for that. All right, let's talk about some nutrition. So how do we make application with this? Information without application is hallucination. So read this. It's the high carb diet I put you on 20 years ago, the doctor says, gave you diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Oops. So stop and think about it. I remember visiting my grandmother when I still lived in New York. We came down here and she lived in Oakland Park. And I remember opening up the refrigerator. I think I must have been 6 years old. I remember seeing all these tubs of margarine. That's when it started. Back in the 60s, the 70s, when they took all the results of the Framingham study and they locked it up in the closet. And they said, no, low fat, right? And they took away all the good fats, all the fuel, everything that you need for good brain function, good body function, cellular repairing and regeneration. And they took all the science behind that and they hid it. The Food and Drug Administration. The Food Administration so that they could sell us all the new, stuff that we need to keep our heart disease down. But then the drug companies to treat the heart disease as we watch the rates of heart disease quadruple over the next couple of decades. So all of that stuff, all the stuff that you learned as far as low-fat, funk science, guys. Our diets, every single person in here, again, I'm not, Nutrimost patients do not do this now. Remember, after 40 days, right, after 40 days, your diet should be at least 60% good fat, at least 60%. Now, some of you guys are quaking in your boots because you've bought into that lie, for lack of a better term, that fat makes you fat. And fat will give you heart disease, and it's all wrong. The good fat will not make you fat. It'll actually help your body burn fat. It'll turn you into a full-time fat-burning machine. And furthermore, what you're going to learn is the saturated fat that they told you will cause heart disease actually does the opposite. And I'm going to prove that to you. All in the Framingham study. Bad cholesterol, in the last 10 years, the new research has shown that which LDL? Oxidized is the key factor for atherosclerosis. Hence, we should do everything we can to reduce the risk of LDL oxidation, not necessarily bringing the LDL down. So if you're going to leave with anything today, take your blood test, look at them, look at where that level is, and just realize that you don't need to mess with that anymore. What you need to do is start messing with what's going to oxidize that level. A principal player in the risk of oxidation is higher levels of what? Hello.
Doctor, what's the difference between the level in the oxidization?
Well, the more, the level of LDL?
Yeah, the LDL.
Well, the LDL, what we're learning right now is to not be so concerned with how high your LDL is. What we have to be concerned with is how much sugar you're bringing into your body, which is going to modify the LDL, cause it to rust and oxidize, and cause the plaquing in the arteries.
Oh.
Okay, so this is what does that. In other words, this is what causes the plaquing in the arteries. The sugar. That's what causes the triglycerides. The assembling of fat molecules in the blood is proportional to how your insulin levels go up. So this is all coming down to the sugar, guys. So, you know, if I pointed to this, you'd be guys, yeah, I know. It's like no big deal. But then you look at, you know, things like this, which we know is not good. And then we go to the cereal bars, and we look at the Quaker oatmeal bars. Remember, I embarrassed my mom the last time she was here. That was funny. Oh boy, she gave me a beating for that. But we had fun with that. But you know, like it's in the sugar, and we look at the cereals, and then we look at our schools and the learning disabilities that some of our kids have, the disadvantage that they're at, because we jack them up with sugar, they leave the house, and then their attention is scattered. A lot of them wind up on medication to control their behavior, and a lot of the cause is seemingly coming from this. But then it's buried in things that we wouldn't think are so bad, like rice or potatoes or bread or pasta. And you know what? It is, because this turns to sugar within 4 seconds in your mouth. And it causes insulin to go up, no different than this. Or this orange juice right here that's pasteurized. And you take it through this refining process. And if you take a glass of orange juice, like a 10-ounce glass, it takes you 10 freshly squeezed oranges to make that. It's concentrated sugar. How many of you guys have ever sat down and eaten 10 freshly squeezed oranges? You can't do it. But yet we'll slug that thing and think, oh, it's the healthiest thing in the world. Your white blood cells are shuddering. They're paralyzed after you slug a big glass. I've seen it on live blood cell microscopy. It literally paralyzes your immune system on contact. If you eat enough sugar, that's what it does. Sugar feeds cancer. The cancer cells hijack the sugar. So we're talking about the root cause, like I said, of every degenerative disease that would threaten to end your life early. This is it right here, guys. It all comes down to this. But like I said, we have to take it one layer further. Because these are all the things where you'll go home and you'll make it for dinner, or it's in your pantry, and be like, yeah, I wonder if I'm doing a good job with this or not. And certainly this is the worst. But then you have the whole wheat, and then you have the spinach and tomato basil. Now, in my workshops in the past, I would say, this is the best of the worst. This is at least it's wheat-based, or at least it's vegetable-based. But you know what? If you read the nutritional profile on that, you'll see it's wheat flour. There's all types of stuff in there that really are going to cause your glucose to go up. So, in essence, to be honest with you, you do not need grains. Your body does just fine burning fat. You do not need to be burning sugar. If you're going to get any sugar, you have it from low sugar fruits. You do not need carbohydrates. Your body does not need to live on that. That's why I love recommending the paleo diet to people. It's simple, it's easy. Everybody's heard of the paleo diet, right? And we don't have to get technical about it. You know, but the general gist of it is proteins, fruits, and vegetables. And it's a nutritional plan that you could and should do for the rest of your life. And that's pretty much what I live on. You know, if I go out, I'll be honest with you, my body is so finely tuned to anything that provokes an insulin response right now. I can feel my eyelids get heavy if I have a banana. You know, it's that sensitive. If I go down to La Bamba, if I have a couple of scoops of rice with my beans, you know, I feel my eyelids get heavy. And when you get to that point, you realize that, you know what, all these things that we love, we crave it because we're unhealthy. We have an addiction to sugar. But once you break that addiction, you start craving things that you never craved before. You start craving healthy foods. A healthy body craves healthy foods. And so what I want to encourage you guys to do is to start to move in this direction to eventually you can eliminate these grains altogether because you don't need them. Grains raise insulin levels and drive inflammation. And inflammation causes what?
Cancer.
Which disease?
Cancer.
Cancer, heart, all disease. All disease, everything. So, you know, if we're looking at that and we can say, oh my gosh, this is what I always do, this is what I live on, but the cause of it is right under your nose. It's like sleeping with the enemy. You know, it's right there. We would have never known it, but it is. But this is what we've been taught over the last several decades. They taught it to you in school, right? The food pyramid, at the bottom of the food pyramid, the bottom 60%. This right there. There it is. That's the #1 reason why we have more cases of diabetes every year than anything else. It's insane to stop, when you stop and think about it. Why would they do that? I don't get it. You know, there's politics behind it, and there's always money behind it. Cardiologists and neurologists rethinking the illness. Dr. David Perlmutter, he said, unbridled what? Inflammation. Rampant in Western cultures, with leading scientific research showing that it's fundamental cause of early death associated with coronary artery disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and virtually every other chronic disease you can imagine. The injury and inflammation in our blood vessels is caused by what? Low-fat diet. Why would inflammation be caused by a low-fat diet? Well, I'll tell you why. Because good fats are anti-inflammatory. Okay? Bad fats, like trans fats and sugars, are pro-inflammatory, which means they excite inflammation, they drive inflammation. When you have good healthy fats like fish oils, almonds, avocados, flaxseed oil, all the oils that are high in omega-3, those are anti-inflammatory. And because they told us to take all the fat out, we had nothing to fight the inflammation. Does that make sense? So, watch this. This pretty much puts it in perspective.
Inflammation is more common than you would think. It can cause stroke, heart attack, and even cancer. It starts as a slow burn inside of your body, and it acts like an emergency unit responding to infection and injury. The tender, throbbing hot spots that may feel uncomfortable are actually part of your body's natural response. It means your immune system is sending the internal signal to launch white blood cells and protein to destroy infection and heal injuries. But if the inflammation lingers after the job is done, or your immune system becomes confused and misfires by accident, what was once your best friend can quickly become your worst enemy. When inflammation becomes chronic, your body's natural defense system takes a turn for the worse by starting a sneak attack on your joints, tissue, and blood vessels, wreaking havoc on all of those areas that were once pain-free. That's when the slow-burning throb becomes a 5-alarm fire. For years, researchers have found that chronic inflammation can be linked to rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and asthma. But the newest and most modern research shows a lot more. Chronic inflammation can very well be at the heart of the life-threatening diseases that we all fear the most. Cancer, heart attack, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's. Is chronic inflammation eating away at your body?
All right, so how do we fix that? Well, again, if you look at what causes the arteries to close up and cause a myocardial infarction, cause a heart attack or a stroke, it's the inflammation. All right, so you can be on cholesterol and blood pressure medication and blood thinners. You can be on all that stuff, but if your inflammatory markers are through the roof, this is what your arteries look like. In fact, anybody who works in a hospital here and you've seen the ICU, all the people who have heart attacks, they're all on those medications. We know that. And then, but you can see arteries like this, which are clear and wide open, and that very well could easily be a person with a 300 level cholesterol. And it could be clear because there's no inflammation. So this is really what it comes down to. We've got to control the inflammation. The major triggers for inflammation are what? Sugar and bad fats. Yep. So again, getting back to the paleo diet, someone asked me a couple of days ago if I had any recommendations, recipes, and things like that. I went online, I looked on Amazon. There's a couple of books. There's one of them that looked really good. It's called Paleo for Beginners. For less than $10, you can get 100 or 200 recipes. And it's, again, like I said, it's very, very simple. It's proteins, fruits, vegetables. But again, you're looking at wild meats here. So this is not grain-fed, right? When they grain-fed meat, when they feed grain or the cattle or chickens or whatever, if they feed it with corn or soy, what it does is it pushes up the omega-6 ratios in those meats. Omega-6 is what drives inflammation. Omega-3 is what calms the inflammation. Yeah, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, omega-6 is pro-inflammatory. So anytime you can get grass-fed like lamb, deer, elk, any of the wild game that's not grain-fed, you're in good shape with that. The fish, because again, high in omega-3. You got your nuts, and particularly, almonds are my favorite. They're really the highest in omega-3. Once you start getting into cashews, walnuts, sunflower seeds, those are high in omega-6, which are going to be pro-inflammatory. But these fruits here, high or low sugar? Low sugar, yeah. Every day I'll have a Granny Smith apple at 10 o'clock. That's my mid-morning snack. In the morning, this is what I have with my smoothie. I have strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries. That's my morning smoothie. That's what I put in there. Go with the low sugar fruits because the lower the sugar, the less inflammation. So again, typical paleo. And by the way, eggs, are they low or high in cholesterol? Very high in cholesterol. And they told you what? To not have too many. Take the yolk out because that has all the cholesterol. Well, based on what you learned tonight, is that a good idea? No. Where is all the nutrition going to come from now? The yolk. If you eat egg whites, it's like eating soup with a fork. You're missing the most important part of it. So eggs are good. They're one of the bang for the buck. It's one of the most healthy foods that you could eat. High in protein, all types of minerals and vitamins. So the cholesterol, again, is no longer do we have to have that fear that it's a threat to our health or our hearts. We should be eating these things. So standard. Obviously, not the paleo diet. We get the thing. Now there is. Do I have dairy? Dr. Yachter has cheese every once in a while, but the best cheese that you should have is the raw cheese. The organic, the raw cheese, butter, goat cheese. As long as it's not processed, it's not commercial, it's not grain-fed. But do I like to have a lot of dairy? No. Do I ever have whole milk? No. I'll have almond milk or coconut milk. But a little bit of cheese. I don't like cheese to be a big part of my diet because it's acidic, number one. It's got benefits as far as the probiotics are concerned, which is good for your immune system. There are some healthful benefits. But remember, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And so it can become very acidic, which can have other implications to your health. So again, that's why they put that in there for the paleo diet. So I say, generally speaking, stick with this. If you want to have a little cheese in there, I don't think it's going to kill you, but go on Amazon, get yourself a paleo book for beginners. You'll have a couple hundred recipes in there, and that'll help you get creative with that. This is something that I believe that every person in here should do because it's one of the easiest things that you can get all the nutrition that you need without having to take a multivitamin. And get your day off to a strong start with keeping your blood sugar levels stable and your energy maximized and keeping that all the way through lunch and the rest of the day. If you're eating oatmeal, if you're eating Pop-Tarts, bagels, croissants, bread, cereal, any of that stuff, what are you doing to your insulin levels? Raising them. So in order to apply what we've learned tonight, the easiest thing that you could do and the most cost-effective, time-effective, is to just have a shake. You do a couple of these scoops in there, and you have your berries, and then you have a little bit of fat burning fuel in there, which would be your almond butter. Now, can you use peanut butter? Again, it's going to have more omega-6 than omega-3. Do I have it everyone? That's my cheat, guys. I love peanut butter just as much as the next person. So maybe I'll have peanut butter once a week or every other week, and I'll have it with one of my Granny Smiths. But other than that, every morning I'll have almond butter. high in omega-3, anti-inflammatory, fat burning. You want to have that. I'll have that with coconut milk also, fat burning. So you got your good healthy fats in there, and that's what keeps you burning fat and not hungry all morning long. You got your nutrition, very high in protein, very low in sugar, and that's the breakfast of champions, guys. And again, I strongly recommend that you guys, if you haven't tried it yet, you should try it. I would never recommend to you something that I don't do myself. I do this, my wife does this, sometimes my kids do it. It's very easy. Kids love it if you take the time and you just make it. Now, if you don't want to mess with a blender, I'll give you a little trick, okay? You take a glass, you pour your coconut milk in there, and you take a scoop of that and you put it in your glass and you mix it up. And you drink it. And then you do it again, and then you drink it. And then you take your fruit and take your almond butter, 2 scoops of that, and then you eat it. Okay? It's the same thing. It all goes down the same hatch, right? What's that? Okay, so this would be for breakfast. This could be for lunch, for example, or you could do green for breakfast also. But this would be mixing in there like kale, avocado, maybe some iceberg lettuce, cucumbers, so spinach, yeah. So that would be a green, that would be more of a vegetable smoothie. And now there's 3 flavors, so obviously, I don't know that you want to do that with the chocolate, but you could do it with the vanilla. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I have a recipe. I blend carrot, banana, cornmeal, oatmeal, and make porridge. Is it a good recipe?
Okay, so that would unfortunately be contrary to everything that. I don't mean to throw you under the bus, there, brother. So okay, so listen, and then this is good to learn from. So carrots are healthy. Vitamin A, beta carotene, good for your eyes, good healthful benefits, but very high in sugar. Bananas, same thing, high in potassium, good healthful benefits, very high in sugar. Oatmeal, it breaks down into sugar. So basically, you're getting all this stuff that's healthy, but unfortunately, the net effect is it's elevating insulin levels. It's driving insulin, and that's what causes inflammation. So as far as reversing the effects of all of that, we would want to stick with the low sugar stuff. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Prior to a workout, having half a banana, is that a bad idea?
No, it's not a bad idea, but you know, for fuel before a workout, you know, if you want to have a little bit of sugar, that'll work. But what studies show gives you even better workout is to use the medium chain triglycerides like coconut oil. Coconut oil is accessed by your body much like a sugar, but it's really an oil. It's a fat, and you'll get more power from that mixing it in a cup of coffee with the caffeine. If you want to have your half a banana, that's fine. You're still going to work out like a champ. Yeah. Exactly.
Can you use your olive oil?
Yeah, you can use olive oil. Yep. Okay, so we want to replace the bad fats, guys. We want to look at your labels. You know, the cottonseed oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil. You got to start having your spidey senses and your radar up. Anytime you see this, you want to stay far away from it. When you go to a restaurant and you have your salad and you say, okay, I don't want the bad dressing like the you know, like the honey mustard and the ranch. I know it's got trans fat in it. Bring me the extra virgin olive oil and the vinaigrette. So when they bring you that olive oil, ask them, is this vegetable oil or is it olive oil? If it's really, really light color, it's probably vegetable oil. Sometimes they mix it. If it's deep dark yellow, then you probably got a good bet that it's extra virgin. But you have to ask them. Margarine, synthetic butters, country crock, throw it out. Don't even give it to your neighbors.
Unless you don't like them.
Unless you don't like them. Corn oil. So look at this, like corn oil and canola oil, that sounds healthy, but again, it's a trans fat, high in omega-6, it causes inflammation. Grain-fed meat, all commercial meat, obviously. Now again, listen, do I ever not go to Houston's or J. Alexander's or Longhorns and have a steak? I do. You know, I'm just saying that if you're going to eat meat, the best thing to eat is the grass-fed. And most of the time I do. When my wife buys meat at the store, she'll get me she'll get me the grass-fed meat. You know, sometimes we'll get lamb, whatever it is. But I like to mix it up. I don't like to have meat more than once or twice a week. I'll have chicken a couple times a week. I'll have fish a couple times a week. One of the greatest things that you can do is just keep changing it up. Don't let your body get used to any one thing. Extra virgin olive oil is what you want to go to. If you're going to stir fry on it, make sure it's on what? Low heat. Otherwise, you turn it into a trans fat if you burn it. Avocados, avocado oil, coconut oil. This is one of the best fat burning secrets that you could use. Raw nuts, seeds, and oils, real butter, raw fatty fish. All the oily fish like sardines, salmon. And again, be careful of the source where it comes from. If it's farm raised, you know what they're feeding it. Corn and soy. It's the craziest thing what fish will eat these days. But you can train them to do anything, I guess. So, interesting. Here's the reason why we're in the situation that we have to clean up right now. This is one of the researchers from the Framingham Heart Study, Dr. George Mann. He said the diet and heart hypothesis that suggests that high intake of fat or cholesterol causes heart disease has been repeatedly shown to be what? Wrong. And yet, for complicated reasons of pride, profit, and prejudice, the hypothesis continues to be exploited by scientists, fundraising enterprises, food companies, and even government. The public is being deceived by the greatest health scam of the century. That's why whenever I see the cholesterol meds, I'm like, it's all part of the scam. That's really, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just, this is all science, guys. And when you read it enough, you're like, my gosh, it's ridiculous. People need to know this stuff. So in 1990, now this is gonna set you free. You guys are gonna love this. In 1990, Dr. Willett of Harvard University found that by evaluating the best studies to date, no correlation existed between saturated fat intake and risk of what? Subsequent studies found similar results. So what is the saturated fat? When I say saturated fat, what comes to mind? Butter, what else? Steak, eggs, bacon. So is what he's saying there's no correlation between that and heart disease? Does that mean we can actually eat that? Of particular interest were the findings from Dr. Castelli, who analyzed data from the Framingham study. He found that the more saturated fat people ate, the more steak, bacon, eggs, ham, the lower their cholesterol was. So, what does that mean?
That steak looks good.
That steak's starting to look better and better. So watch this. Now these are the facts, guys. So the principal fat in red meat, eggs, and bacon is the same is not saturated fat, but the very same monounsaturated fat as in what? Holy smokes. Steak, 51% of the fat in steak is monounsaturated, which is the same as what's in olive oil. And you know olive oil is healthy for you. It's healthy for your heart. Saturated fat constitutes 45% of the total fat, but a third of that is stearic acid, which increases your good cholesterol while having no effect on LDL. So, porterhouse steak in lieu of your bread and potatoes, you just have the vegetables on the side and your steak, is a smart meal. It's not only good for your heart and good for your cholesterol, but it's fat burning. When we went to Longhorns on Monday, I got my 11-ounce ribeye. I took it easy. I usually get the 18-ounce. But to me, a steak is not a steak without a heaping thing of butter on top of it. Okay? Now, to some of you guys, you're thinking, man, he better have a cardiologist on hand. So literally, somebody could stroke out while they're eating their steak like that. But based on all the research that we just showed, what is that showing us? Not the case at all. In fact, by eating that steak, I'm lowering my serum cholesterol, and I'm actually increasing the good HDL. I'm improving my cholesterol levels, my cholesterol ratio, and because you're having all that good fat, your body is burning more fat. Anytime you can put butter on your vegetables or on your steak, you're putting another ember on the fire. I mean, you're putting a log on the fire. You're going to stoke that fat-burning fire. So that's the way you want to be thinking right now. You know, when you have the bacon with the eggs, again, the fears should be fleeing you right now, guys. Can you feel that? Can you feel how much lighter you feel? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying eat this every day, but I'm saying enjoy it. You want to have it a couple times a week? It is healthy. There are healthful benefits, and there's nothing bad about it. So a couple of nutritional recommendations besides that, as far as supplementation. This one thing, Perfusia SR, that you might have seen in your handout. This has a couple of the precursors for nitric oxide. One of them is L-arginine, another one is resveratrol, another one is vitamin C. It's got like 4 or 5 different prerequisites for the manufacturing of nitric oxide. What nitric oxide does is it relaxes the smooth muscle. And the smooth muscle we're talking about here is the artery walls. So if you have high blood pressure and we relax those vessels, what happens to your blood pressure? It what? It comes down. If you have plaque in there and you relax the artery walls, what happens? It relaxes and opens up the artery to a good degree. By the way, L-arginine is one supplement that literally obliterates plaque. It annihilates plaque. It removes plaque. And there's not a supplement in the world that will do that besides L-arginine. So that's why this is appropriate for this particular workshop. And the other one that we put together for the supplement suite is Q-Best. And that's because every muscle in your body works by CoQ10. It's an essential molecule for muscular contraction, particularly your heart. And where the heart becomes affected is when you take cholesterol-lowering drugs like statin, it strips the CoQ10 out of your heart. And it's very serious, very unhealthy, and very dangerous. Now, I know a lot of cardiologists that if they put my patients on statin medications, they also prescribe CoQ10. But the problem with most of the CoQ10 today, the cheap ones that they make that are not bioavailable, they're made with dry powder, oil, nanoparticle, and ubiquinol, which is an inferior substance and it's not bioavailable. Your body cannot absorb it, and therefore you don't get the clinical outcome that you should be getting. In the form that we have with this Q-Best, it's the most bioavailable form. It's 3 to 4 times more bioavailable and absorbable than all other forms out there. So that's why we recommend that to keep your heart muscle strong and every other muscle in your body. The last thing is the Super EPA Pro. What do we need that for? Remember, the EPA, DHA, those ratios are really important, not just for your brain, but also for your heart. And quite honestly, the EPA and DHA, the fish oils, are anti-inflammatory. So we said not just for good heart health, but also for reducing your risk of cancer, diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, triglycerides, anything that has to do with inflammation can be proactively addressed with the Super EPA Pro. And again, when we're talking about the Thorne supplements, these are superior nutraceuticals. They don't sell this stuff in GNC. Quite frankly, they can sell anything in GNC, but the problem is what you're getting is not what your body is absorbing. The most expensive supplement you will ever buy is the one that you urinate out because your body can't absorb it. So you get what you pay for in the end. And aside of that, there really is no excuse because on the nights when you come for the workshops, we discounted 20% on top of everything. So that's when you put all these 3 together. Thorne, the nutraceutical doctors at Thorne that I studied with a little more than a year ago, they put together these because when they work together, they have a synergistic or amplified effect to be more effective for heart health. So that's what we recommend. We give you a 20% discount when you buy this package together tonight. We have a limited number of those items available. So if you're interested in doing that, you will have the discount available to you tonight. Now, any other supplements, we do discount. I think they do it at 10%. But when you buy all these together, they give a little bit more of a discount. And that's the flyer that you have there. If you have any other questions on those, let me know after. Just want to close up tonight to make sure that you get credit for tonight's workshop. Get your supplements. You can stop up front for that. Make sure you get registered for next month's workshop, cancer prevention. Keep that in your calendar. And if you're a guest here and you'd like to follow up with your nerve system and your spine checkup, see Dr. Denson or one of my associates to get you the coupon for your appointment there. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. I love and appreciate you. And the handout, you guys should have all the answers for that. If you don't, come and see me. You should be able to figure out the answers. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming tonight.